Hi, I'm Travis Larson.
My name is Jen Majura.
And we're happy to be here for American Musical Supply with Electro-Voice.
Jen and Travis, thank you so much for taking the time and being here today, honestly.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are obviously friends, hopefully. You're touring together. I'd love to know...
for now.
I'd love to know, how did you each get started? And what sort of sparked your passion for music?
I pretty much started at the age of 4 when my parents decided for me to become a piano player. I quickly then realized that it's not so much running around, headbanging and rocking out, so I changed to electric guitar at the age of 6. And, well, the rest is history.
I was a late bloomer. I started at 9, but I also started as a piano player.
Really?
My brother was taking piano lessons, and so there was a piano in the house, and so I started picking out TV themes and stuff on the piano, and my parents thought I was a prodigy because they heard me playing the MASH theme on the piano and Hill Street Blues and things of the day. And so, but I also realized that you had to bend notes and pose out and look cool, so I got a guitar.
Right.
I bought my first guitar from a Sears catalog, and it was painted up like the Eddie Van Halen guitar.
So cool.
But I bought it because I saw Jeff Beck, and that was what made me want to buy a guitar.
My first guitar was a pink Hohner.
Oh, nice.
Oddly enough, I didn't even know that they made guitars, but...
Mine was a Quart.
How was your first guitar? Mine was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible also, but it was red and white, and it looked like it was like a small version of the Van Halen guitar.
What other instruments do you play?
Well, I still play some keyboards. I play, that's pretty much it.
Oh, you can play a little bit of the drums, come on.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, of course, he says of course.
Yeah, well, I think everybody should play a little bit of the drums.
So how about trumpet, flute, saxophone?
No, I could never do wind instruments. Not like you.
How about the violin?
I have messed around with violin a little bit. If I gave it some effort, I could do that.
How about bagpipes?
No.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is the guitar had an unfair aesthetic advantage as an instrument. And I think most people feel that way, right? So is guitar the coolest looking instrument?
Absolutely. And it's also one of the hardest to pose with.
The hardest to pose with?
I think so. I mean, I'm very thankful for these handles. They can, you can swing it around and
I don't know.
look
I grew
all
up
cool.
watching ELP. So I started as a keyboard player, and progressive music was big. And I would watch Keith Emerson pull a B3 on top of himself and try and play it backwards and all this stuff. That seemed way harder than guitar, where you just have to hold with this hand and you stick this hand up in the air.
You're such a rock star.
And you're cool. Keyboard seemed like, I don't know. I don't know if guitar is the hardest instrument to pose out with.
Okay, maybe you're right.
What about a bassoon?
Bassoon. I had a neighbor when I was a child, and she played the bassoon. So every now and then I would have breakfast with my parents, and there was this her practicing, and I tried to get a note out of these things, and it worked. I'd say if you carry a certain amount of musicality in yourself, you can make almost every instrument work.
I think if you're a musician, and it's all what you put your time into. But yeah, I completely agree.
So how about the bagpipes?
I have not tried them. But you have to do that circular breathing thing, right?
Oh, didgeridoo. I did record didgeridoo on a power metal album in Europe once. That was very interesting.
Power metal didgeridoo. I have didgeridoo on my Burn Season record.
You did? You played it?
I did not. I had Vinx play it. A friend of mine who was played with Miles Davis and Sting and a bunch of people.
Pretty cool.
Didn't play the didgeridoo with those people, but he was a good didgeridoo player.
I think the oddest instrument that I play is a theremin. I learned it for this orchestral tour we've been doing with Evanescence, and I learned how to play the theremin, which is, to this very day, one of the few instruments which you can play without physically touching it. So it has like 2 antennas, and one is the pitch antenna, the other one is the volume antenna. And I remember I was seated next to the string section, and when they were playing, sometimes they would reach into my little theremin world, and my theremin out of a sudden in the middle of the show would go like, woo! That was pretty much fun.
Theremin, for the people that don't know, besides things like the Munsters, is well known for the Beach Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Who.
And Doctor Who, yeah.
Star Trek as well.
Star Trek, yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
There you go, people.
Here I was thinking the theremin was a bone in my leg. We talked about origins in terms of guitar and your musicality. What about you two meeting? Like, how did that start?
That one's going to tell you.
I was doing a thing at the NAMM show called the X Jam, which was like an all-star guitar jam with. We did several of them, but the first one I think was me, Andy Timmons, Tony McAlpine, Mike Keneally. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody. Larry Mitchell, maybe. And anyway, there was an amp company that was sponsoring the show that wanted one of their players to be involved with the show, and they sent me an email and said, "So this player, Jen Majura from this band Evanescence, is going to be there. Is it possible you could find a spot for her?" And I said, "Who?" And didn't know anything about her, didn't know anything about the band. But she came to the show, and Mike Keneally was there.
Yes.
And who's a dear friend of mine. And Mike played in one of the early iterations of a Steve Vai band, and that was her first concert.
My dad took me to a Steve Vai concert when I was I feel like a toddler. And so I was in front of the stage like this and observing the whole insanity going on, and I loved it. And that was back in the days when Mike Keneally was the hat for Steve Vai. And I remember being able to play through Mike's gear. I was turning into this little fangirl. I was so stoked about this whole thing. So that was literally when he saw me the first time.
Yeah, so all I saw was this girl that I didn't know who she was who was fanning out. And so she's like, "I can't believe I'm playing with you guys." And I was like, she could have played for 12 people. She could have played for 12 million people. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And then we did this a couple of years in a row and saw each other around the NAMM show. And then during the pandemic, the zombie apocalypse, she was doing a thing called the 1 Minute Jams on YouTube.
Everybody go to YouTube, check out my channel, and type in 1 Minute Jams, and you'll be greatly entertained.
Yeah, so she would do really short, little concise versions of guilty pleasure 80s pop songs, but she had all these guys like Mike Portnoy and Nico McBrain and Richie Kotzen and Billy Sheehan
and Mike Mangini, Alex Skolnick, all kinds of like fantastic players.
Mostly heavy players and really virtuosic players playing all this stuff. So I saw that and I said, this is some really nice positive energy in the world right now. And so I sent her a Facebook message, and she immediately messaged me back and said, "I just got hit in the face with a bat." And I said, "What?" And so I said, like the furry animal that'll tear a vein out of your neck and kill you, or like a baseball bat? She said the furry animal. So on Facebook Messenger, I don't suggest people do this, but there's the phone icon. You can push that icon and the other side will ring. Somebody could pick up, and she picked up immediately. And she said, "I just got hit in the face with a bat. I live in a castle built in the 1700s. And I came home from my drummer's birthday party, and the motion light came on, and this bat flew out, and it gave her a black eye." And then she sent me a picture. Her eye was literally turning black. And so we talked for like 2.5 hours that night while I tried to convince her to go to the emergency room.
And I did it the next morning.
And then I checked in with her the next day, and then we talked. It was pandemic, so we talked every day. And
ever since. Never stop talking.
Never stop talking. She got hit again.
Shush.
And I was gonna ask, just like anecdotally, like, what do you think the most metal thing about you is? But living in a castle and fighting bats sounds
pretty good, huh?
yeah, it's hard to top. I don't know, Travis, you got anything to top that?
I cannot top that. I've been to the castle and I've enjoyed the bats, but I have not been hit.
Moat.
And the moat. She has a moat.
Yes.
Yeah, a moat.
I have a moat that goes around the property, and the castle was built in 1705.
So the only way I could invade is if there's a drought, or I build like a siege weapon.
Well, there is a tiny little bridge with a castle gate as well.
Don't give away all the secrets.
I'm sorry.
I live on the bay in California, so I have water, but it's not nearly as medieval and cool.
That's awesome. Speaking of metal, I'd love to just get a feel for each of your music tastes. Usually we ask folks to maybe get out even your phone and hit shuffle a couple of times, but maybe if you guys could just speak to, you spoke to some of the people that inspired you, Steve Vai, a bunch of name dropping, but just talk to me about the music you guys like to listen to and maybe what you listen to for different applications. Like, I listen to different music when I'm in the gym versus when I'm trying to think. So I don't know, just talk to me about, the music that you guys are into.
Can I describe riding in the car with you in Europe?
I have a very weird taste in music. I usually don't like anything in 4/4. So everything that's 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 is kind of like my jam. And I am very much into, just to name a few, I love Free Kitchen. I love Steve Vai, Dream Theater, Whom Gods Destroy, Sons of Apollo, stuff like that, and a lot beyond that, which Travis is going to feel free to elaborate right now on.
Well, and we relate very well in that because I, of course, also love odd time signatures. However, riding in the car with her is this crazy, psychotic cacophony of everything she just described. And then a Billy Joel song will pop up. And then a Journey song. Lady Gaga.
Some dubstep every now and then, Skrillex. Like, I think there's good in every kind of music as long as it's like well made and with love and.
I agree. There's we say we like good music.
Exactly.
Which could mean anything.
Although the one thing I can't stand is reggae. I don't know, it relaxes everybody on planet Earth. It makes me aggressive. I can't listen to reggae for whatever reasons. I don't know.
It makes her aggressive.
Yeah, it does. But for example, we love country. Well, you have to listen to
country in your car, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. The first person I've ever heard to say reggae makes them mad.
I know.
That's great. I have a 4-year-old, and some of the music to try and find to play that's like, Beatles is easy layup.
Oh, yes.
But reggae is also an easy lay because it's like easy listening.
Not for me. I just can't deal with it.
If I can get that. I do have a question as a metalhead myself, and I'm going off script here, but like, what is appealing about the odd time signatures as both a musician yourself and an avid listener of music? Do you appreciate the technicality and the precision and trying to think about how that's being executed? Or is it like science fiction films where it's like eliciting something out of you that's different? And that's why the time signatures are odd.
For me, honestly, I feel like it hooks me in a different way than compared to the normal it's just I fell in love with this odd music at a very young age. So friends of mine in Germany have this insane band called Panzerballett. You Americans call them Panzerballet. It's called German Panzerballett. So and they really dedicated albums to quintuplets and seventuplets, and I've always loved that type of groove because it's like I don't know, it's just, I love it.
Well, when you listen to, say, a comedian, the element of surprise is what the joke's all about, right? Once you know the joke, it's not funny anymore. And so music, to me, is a little bit like that, where I enjoy adventure in my music. I do love some classic bands. I love some 4/4 music, but that's because I grew up with it, I think, and it's ingrained in me. Rolling Stones.
That's the only thing that we are different. I am a Beatles gal, and he's a Rolling Stones guy.
Well, the Beatles are fantastic. Nobody can argue that.
But you keep saying that now.
But I'm from the more rock and roll dark side than you are.
Oh, boy. You should see everybody here in the studio is laughing right now.
Back in the old days, Mick was the Dark Prince. Okay, so anyway.
Dude.
I enjoy a musical journey. So when you're kind of going through things that are not predictable, and it's not about the technicality so much. When you're playing it, it can be, because if you're playing the same songs on tour for 20 years and it's still a challenge every night because it's complicated, then that kind of pays you back by keeping you interested, keeping you challenged every night. Rush always said their music was a challenge. And, even songs they've been playing for 4 decades. So that I can appreciate. However, I think that musical adventure is really what it appeals to me.
That's fantastic. I would ask, there'd be a fun follow-up jazz question here where it's like, is that not adventure? Like, what is jazz in this then? How do you look at jazz? Because if we're talking about these odd time signatures I love your analogy of like, keep you guessing, right? It's not all about the setup. It's about sort of also the punchline. But like, jazz doesn't have any structure. So like, where does that fall in your adventure analogy?
I do have a love for jazz, especially like Latin jazz, classic standards. I've been playing in a jazz duo back in the days, and I definitely love playing and singing all kinds of like bossa novas and stuff.
I grew up on jazz as well.
You could totally go Frank Zappa now and say jazz stinks.
Well, I was going to say we've all seen the recent Spinal Tap where they're talking about jazz. Jazz is based on everything that's wrong. Jazz is a mistake. However, I did my first influence in playing music, was things like Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So it was like, progressive music and jazz. And that's just the age that I grew up in. So I was lucky. I grew up in a time, not to sound old, but I remember being a child and seeing Chick Corea and Herbie Hancock on the Merv Griffin show. That would be like the equivalent today of somebody turning on Jimmy Fallon and seeing, like Guthrie Govan or something, which doesn't happen now, right? So back in those days, the best musicians would actually be featured. And so I grew up seeing those guys just by default, because my family, minus my brother, had nothing to do with music. They didn't have, we were just joking at lunch about all our parents' influence on our musicality, and it was not it was not good.
Well, my dad had a great
was.
role in my life becoming a musician, because he's a bass player. He's from Thailand, toured Germany, and so I learned from the get-go like everything about like great bass players like Larry Graham and the Central Station, Stanley Clarke, Gary Willis, T.M. Stevens, all these great musicians. And so I never had the momentum of like questioning what will I become when I grow older. Have you ever wanted to become anything else but a musician?
No, and just to answer what you were saying, I was like the captain in Tennille and like the Sonny and Cher show, and a whole different world. But no, I never wanted to be anything but a musician, but I never thought about it. I never even thought about what I was going to do. I just started playing music, and
that's it, right?
Yeah, it was just one of those things where you started, that was my escape as a child, was music. You could create your own world and your own atmosphere.
And I think what is very important for younger up-and-coming musicians nowadays is, as we live in this white noise kind of YouTube world and everybody has all these outlets to put their music out, the one thing you should definitely think about before you decide to become a musician is why. And you should definitely do it for the love of music, for the love of creating, for the love of playing, instead of trying to, become famous.
Yeah, we've talked to a bunch of musicians that also have notoriety on platforms like YouTube and such, where like sometimes that's the entire advent of their career. Like, oh, I just started putting guitar lessons online and now I'm here. I love what you just said about thinking through about why you're doing it. If I'm a musician and I want to start putting myself online, what do you think the right approach to that is? Because you have people that say, I need to wait for the stars to align, for everything to be perfect, my technique to be perfect, my camera gear to be perfect. You have other people that are like, you should only be doing it for yourself, just, start filming and that's it. I don't know, do you have any advice? Because I thought what you said was very sage think about why you're doing it. But if I know I want to be a musician and I'm dealing in this internet era, what do you think a good best practice or approach to that should be?
I think there's never, ever the time where everything is perfect for you to put your stuff out there. So just do it, and you'll grow as you go. You will learn certain aspects when you record a video, and then might watch it and be like, oh, I could have done this better or that better. But the same with live playing. It's like you have to do it. You have to go out there and play. A lot of these, we call them bedroom players. They play at home with their tiny little 2-watt amp, and it's easy because you got thousands of takes to get the perfect one with your camera all by yourself. But, as soon as you put yourself on a stage in front of people, have a full stack behind you and have to deal with the noise and the feedback and all that, that's when you learn, when you start communicating with your instrument with other musicians at an open mic night or something. That's so, so important. Just get out there, go out there and play. And the same thing with, like, if you wait for that momentum until your first song is perfection, you're gonna wait forever. It's kind of like an art form to realize when your song is done, right?
True. To be the yang to your yin. I will say that I talk about this in guitar clinics all the time for people that want to play and put music out there, and everybody puts so much stuff out there. There's so much noise now that one thing I would suggest is that when you're trying to decide whether you're ready or not, and you're putting out a product or an album or a demo or whatever it is, look at the people that you are trying to emulate or that are your heroes. Are you truly where they are, or are you even in the ballpark? Not that you have to be all the way there, but just think about it that way. Don't compare yourself to the guy that's next to you at the local open mic night. Compare yourself to the people that you want to be. If you truly want to be an artist and you really are trying to get serious, if your influence is Steve Vai, what sounds different about Steve Vai from what you're doing, production-wise, playing-wise, all that stuff? Mm-hmm. Not that you have to sound like him, but quality-wise, what could you make better?
That's great advice. If you're sitting down to play, what's the first piece of gear that you're reaching for, other than your guitar?
My guitar pick?
Well, it's really about what translates the tone from your fingers to reality, right? Coming down to, things like Electro-Voice and really great monitors, or
that's true.
Really great PA systems, those kind of things, microphones. You're trying to translate what comes from your heart and your hands through all that gear without filter, hopefully. So you're trying to find something that doesn't color the sound, that doesn't change how you want to sound, gives you kind of a flat template to where you can create what you hear in your head. That's what I would say.
I agree.
Can you guys walk me through like your current rig setup? And
oh God. I work with Line 6 and I am a Helix gal, so I have the floor pedal, I have the rack versions, but on this very downsized run, I exclusively use the HX Stomp, and that's it. HX Stomp, cable, guitar. Very easy. Now that one is old school.
Well, what I would say is there's so many pieces of gear now that you can get a good tone out of. If you have the tone in your head and your fingers, you can get a good tone out of almost anything that's reasonable. So I'm just looking for a good warm tube preamp. I'm looking for some nice delay, like a nice stereo delay, and maybe just enough reverb to add some air to the sound, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's basically how I build my tone, and then the rest of it's all volume pot and fingers. Like I said, I grew up on Jeff Beck, so.
Now, if you talk about our setup for this specific An Evening with Jen Majura and Travis Larson run,
there's a cutting board from the kitchen involved.
Not anymore. I got you a
true.
real pedal board now. But we have the so-called Uniboard, which is a 3-piece board of a lot.
Well, we're doing these duo shows we're basically, if you have a different sound guy in every venue, it behooves you to take more and more flexibility away from that sound guy. Because it's a different guy every night. They're not required to go to school. Sometimes it's a bartender that knows how to turn up the volume knob.
Or not.
And so, sometimes it's a world-class sound guy, sometimes it's not. So we basically pre-mix all the music ourselves and send that to the house, and we need 2 vocals, and that's the entire show for what we're doing on this tour.
And here, yet again, I must say, working with Electro-Voice gives me personally, because I'm also a vocalist, that home feeling. Like as soon as we're on stage and we have these monitors and I'm familiar with the sound and I feel home because I know what to expect and what to work with, and I love it.
Yeah, and so many gigs were not home, but it's nice to be home when we are.
Absolutely.
Speaking of gigs, so obviously you've each been playing live music for a long time. Is there anything that audiences love hearing that you're not so thrilled about playing? Or maybe a better question would also be, is there music you always look forward to that's sort of timeless that you could play it 100 times during a gig or on tour that you're really a fan of?
Well, that's a tough question. With this tour, honestly, I enjoy every single track that we play because it's so diverse. Our program goes from like hard rock to fusion-y prog stuff to dubstep to tango to Bavarian folk music sometimes. It's and country because Travis loves country. So I really love every single song that we pick to play on this run.
Yeah, the whole way that this particular show came together was just off the cuff, spur of the moment. As its inception, we just got together at a music store for fun and had no plan. And so these tours have kind of been a slightly honed version of that, where at least we can have enough of a plan to where we know we're going to be entertaining. But
well, you have the plan. I have the spontaneous rest. You know, sometimes I would throw jams at him and be like, "Let's play," and he's like, "What are we playing?"
But in terms of ever getting tired of playing music live, I've never had a career where I had to play music that I was tired of playing. I always played what I loved, and if it's not what I love, I won't do it. So that's I'm playing songs that are 30 years old that I still love.
Awesome. So we're just talking about keeping the sound control and at home. Talked about your eclectic songs that you guys play. What's one thing that, and if you guys have been friends for a while, what's one thing you recently learned about each other on this tour that you didn't know before?
Travis loves country.
Before on this tour? I don't know. We knew each other pretty well before this tour.
That's true. I don't know.
I don't think I've learned anything new on this tour.
No, me neither.
She's been putting up with me having a cold pretty well on this tour. That's never happened before.
That's a new thing, yeah.
Yeah, she's very patient.
I try.
Speaking of patience, do you guys have any specific things you do to warm up, or like a pre-show ritual? Do you guys, do like a haka dance or something?
Well, what are you pointing at me? Do I have a pre-show?
You actually, well, I'm famous for never warming up. My whole career has been walk on stage cold. You actually do warm up because...
Well, I warm up my vocals.
Yeah, and she's a tremendous vocalist, so...
Thank you very much. I have to do my little foo-fa, foo-fa, stuff like that, just to warm up my vocal cords and do a little bit of stretching, because there's nothing worse than playing an hour and a half and then you have rock neck and go like do the robot move, It's just like,
I don't know what you mean at all.
Exactly. See, that's why I warm up. But other than that, I don't know. Sometimes when I have to play some shows which are outdoor and it's freezing cold, I would definitely warm up and just play noodle something to get the blood flow going.
Yeah.
But
I do actually, if it's that kind of situation, or if I have a minute, I do the typical spider exercises. I just run through some chromatic playing just to get my fingers moving.
I've never seen you do that.
But I will.
You will?
If I have to.
When would that be?
Probably out with TLB. When there's going to be, like, with you, here's the thing.
So you don't warm up when we play together?
No, you're so... You're so spontaneous.
Well, yeah. That's why you got to get be ready for every possibility.
That's true. I don't know. I feel like I just jump in.
Cool. All right. So, Jen, I know you've been talking and working on writing a solo album. And obviously, Travis, you've probably written a ton of music as well. Can you guys describe sort of what the process means to you in writing music? I mean, I know we already touched on expression and maybe even like what the new stuff means to you, Jen.
I have released 2 solo albums, and my second solo album, Insanity, came out in 2017, which I am still to this very day so very proud of. Because if you release an album with your own music, there's always this one note, and you listen to it and you're like, I should have done better. And I am very proud to say that there is no note on my second album that I dislike. So I'm very proud and happy about that. And to be honest, I've been creating music ever since, and it's, I don't know, it goes through all the different kinds of genres. Maybe subconsciously I was prepping for this tour. So I wrote like a song called, can I say that? Testicles. It's called Testicles. And it's like a death metal growl, something like that.
Because why wouldn't it be?
Because why wouldn't it be? But then on the other hand, I write a disco pop song, kind of like with an 80s, with a 70s bass line. I don't know. I'm all over the place. And I assume that my third solo album is going to be all over the place too. What I always wanted to do is do an album with, let's say, 11 songs and 11 different styles. Pretty much like our show, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Will you write music with me one day?
Well, that's our plan. We're going to do that one day when we're not constantly getting into rental cars and airplanes and stuff. Someday we're going to do this.
Yeah, after we finish this US run, we're going to do Europe as well. And I don't know if I told you, I'm already planning on Europe for next year.
Yeah.
Cool.
As is my other outlet. By the way, I have 8 albums out with Travis Larson Band, and contrary to popular belief, they're not country albums. Travis Larson Band is not a country band. I know it sounds like one, but it's not. When I'm working on music, I am writing whatever music is kind of hitting my fancy at the moment, which is why I've always played in sort of this eclectic progressive fusion band, because I want to play funk, but I don't want to be in a funk band. I want to play, jazz, but I don't want to be in a jazz band. I want to play metal, but I want to be in a metal band. But I like all elements of those music. Of those music.
Yeah. We hear you.
Am I the guy from Germany? All elements of those music.
Speaking of Germany, what is the difference, and maybe Jen, obviously you could start us off here, what is the major difference you feel between playing music in the States versus overseas? Like, is there one?
Oh my goodness. I mean, by now I can say I played on all the continents, and from Sydney, Australia, to Japan, to South America, to the States, to Canada, Europe, all over Europe. Ireland, oddly enough, is the one country in Europe that I've never played. Ireland is the only one left on the list. But I truly believe that if you get an audience that is connecting with you and what you do, I don't make a difference between States, aliens, Japanese people, people on the moon.
Well, that's absolutely true. I will say some places it's easier to get their attention so that you can create a connection with an audience.
Would you say that's Europe?
I would say a lot of places. I would say Europe. I would say my experience, Canada. I'd say Mexico.
So everything around
the United States. And this is my challenge to the United States, is to keep paying attention to artists and music, because there's a little bit of a jaded thing going on. And I can say that because I'm the American. But
I could say the same thing for Europe, though.
Could you? My
Pretty
experiences in Europe have been really great, though.
That's just because you're an American.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
So you're saying America is so bad.
No, I'm not saying that.
That when I go over there, even though that's not good.
Would you attribute that fatigue in the U.S. To the noise you were talking about? Do you think it's a saturation thing?
It's a saturation thing, and it's generational, because that saturation has made it into the younger generation, and they have a hard time hearing through the noise, I think, or don't even know the difference. Just to sound like the old guy.
No, it's definitely, they call it the economy of effort, right? They like to say, people only have the attention span of a goldfish, but it's like, well, if there's a million things to watch every day, I think we all have to in order to consume anything anymore.
Right. I was going to say, to support her point, though, that I think that connecting with an audience, if you put any people in front of somebody that's expressing themselves and has a skill that not everybody has, that creates interest, that can be magnetizing to people. It's just a matter of getting them to find it.
What's one musical accomplishment that each of you haven't achieved yet that you're looking forward to or you'd like to achieve?
I would love to work with Devin Townsend and create a giant show and play Madison Square Garden with Devin Townsend. How about that? Huh?
Oh, man. I don't know if I can come up with one like that. There was 2 bands that I wanted to play with growing up, the Dixie Dregs and Rush. And Rush has retired, and I got to play with the original Dixie Dregs at the end of their last tour, actually with them on stage in the encore. So as far as things that I haven't done,
Anything on your bucket list?
I mean, it would be nice to make a cool record with you and tour the world.
That's pretty good.
We're talking
There you
about
go.
that, right?
Great. Well, my last question was going to be, is there anything on the horizon that you're both looking forward to?
Playing music,
Playing music and eating,
writing, traveling.
traveling and eating food, booking tours around the Food Channel, coming to a diners, dives, and drive-ins near you.
It's a good show.
It's a good show, and it's a good way to book tours. Hey, we got to get that sausage that they have in that one town because it looks amazing.
Actually, that's a good question. I mean, like, when you're touring the United States, like, what do you look forward to food-wise on the East Coast versus West Coast versus the flyover states or the Midwest?
Dude, I'm a sucker for barbecue, brisket, anything
So we're
like
talking
that.
Texas, or are you more of a Memphis, like, 'cause
Yeah,
there's a couple
everything
different cans.
southern barbecue.
Okay,
Nom,
I'm
nom.
a fan. Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. I like a little bit of everything. Yesterday,
Oh, but Firehouse subs.
oh,
That was
she's
amazing.
excited about fire subs. Yesterday, we had a dirty water dog down
yeah.
by the pier in
Yeah, that was pretty
in
exciting.
New York. And
It cost just $5.
$5 for a hot dog.
And it was
ooh,
like this. It was like one hop.
yeah.
But how do hot dogs compare to, like, because you're from Germany, so, like,
Oh,
that's
we
like
do-
the
we do-
land of, like,
That's
you
a whole
know,
different thing.
We do hot dogs completely different.
Right.
We would have like a giant bun, and also the bread is different. We had this discussion so many times
Is it
over.
schnitzel?
No, a schnitzel is not German, and a schnitzel is not a hot dog. But
And Wiener
you guys-
Schnitzel is totally, that's not even a thing, right?
Wiener. You know what's that?
What?
Like not Wien, but Wien. That's Vienna. Which city Vienna is
Vienna
in?
waits for you. Vienna, Italy?
Oh my god. Dude, Vienna is the capital
Austria.
of Austria. Exactly.
I was kidding.
So, yeah, sure.
I said
Keep telling
Austria.
that.
I said Austria.
Anyway, so hot dogs are a little bit different. We eat them with mayo and ketchup. And also what you guys call mustard here in the States. It's not mustard. And the bread is not bread. Toast
Apparently,
is
we
bread.
don't have anything.
No, you have
No.
brisket and barbecue.
No, but what she does tell me is like the white bread that we would think. We grew up as kids where your mom cut the crust off and made us peanut butter sandwiches. That is toast where she's from. Even if it's not toasted, it's toast. But if you toast a piece of sourdough, that's not toast. That's toasted sourdough.
Yes.
Kid, these are the things that happen when you're on the road and discussing.
For hours
when
in
you're-
the
yeah.
car.
This has been great. Anything that you guys want to plug, Travis, Jen, before we wrap here? Anything else?
Everybody come out, see us play. Catch us on tour, whether if it's in the States, whether if it's in Europe or on the moon. Come out and see us play and become one with our bubble of entertainment.
Look up all Jen Majura's social media or all Travis Larson or Travis Larson Band social media because all my social media is under Travis Larson Band, and this is just an extension of that. But find us.
And everybody stay safe and sane, happy and healthy.
Check out the Electro-Voice Evolve 30M and all the other great Electro-Voice products on AmericanMusical.com.